Autism is becoming more and more prevalent in the United States. About 1 in 150 births result in autism. The parents of these children are finding assistance harder and harder to acquire. The following interviews are the stories of their struggle.
I'm at the point now I don't take him to the store.
We just kept trying to do the normal things with her and wait for a reaction, I guess.
Even though my son doesn't have much language, I am tired of people humiliating him.
As a diagnosis, you weren't going to get the services.
Number one, first and foremost, moms and dads know their children. And you really need to go and find a pediatrician who is able and knows how to diagnose.
I think we could identify it earlier than most, so we probably sensed that something wasn't right, that she wasn't developing normally. So I would say after we had the suspicion that she wasn't speaking to level, that we would go and get her evaluated.
Nicole, she's very shy. I think she would just go into her shell and she wouldn't be able to function with that. She would be very apprehensive to even go to school in a situation like that.
At the time Eric started school, he was 3.5, and there really wasn't any program. They had him in a TMH class, trainable mentally handicapped. He's probably functioning at maybe a 6-year-old level. After that, he spent 2 years there. Then they started an ADAPT program at the elementary school, which at that point I saw Eric do pretty well. I mean, there was a teacher there that was wonderful, and the class was very small, and he was improving.
When we were in more affluent areas, I think we received better care, better programs. And when we were in areas like Hawaii, for example, it was very difficult. I don't think the programs were as successful there or had the resources. Where I think more up north, I think the programs are definitely much better. And I think what it really comes down to is the quality of the people within the program. If they're, the child has to have the trust of the people in the program. And if it's just teaching and there's no real connection, real interaction between the teacher and the student, it's nowhere near as successful. Her last 2 schools, I think she had teachers that really cared about her. In Utah, they wanted to help her and they really took an interest in her, and that when she was in a program where they really took a lot of interest in her, I think it helped her to do better. You have to let them set their own course too. We tried to work with the teachers as much as possible rather than pushing them and pushing them and pushing them for something. You have to build that relationship with the teacher where you're going to allow them to do their job, and in addition to them having a good relationship with the child. I think they're the 2 most important things, because sometimes when the teacher's too pressured by the pressure that the parent's putting on them, it inhibits their ability to work with that student and gain the trust of that student.
Well, initially I had wanted to put her back into the mainstream education system because I felt like academically they weren't challenging Nicole enough. For example, science, they were just doing crossword puzzles and seek and finds. And while Nicole doesn't have an autism diagnosis, I want her to be able to take the FCAT and be able to graduate with a normal diploma and possibly go on to college.
Because she was successful her previous year in school. I think, academically she was doing okay. So I guess they thought that was okay. And that was, again, based on her relationship with her fellow students and other people around her, allowed her to do okay because she had some assistance. But so the programs were diminished. But then when she was going into junior high school, where children are more, I guess, meaner and more critical of other people, she would have had a hard time adjusting to middle school And they didn't take that into consideration when they evaluated her.
What had happened is back in 2006, they had an IEP meeting that I wasn't able to attend because it wasn't held at my home school, which it probably should have been. It was held at one of their offices, and being new to Florida, I couldn't find the office, and I had called them 15 minutes into the meeting, and he had asked if he could proceed without me. And that's the only IEP meeting I had ever missed for either one of my children, you know, and I see now it was a big mistake to allow them to proceed, because that's the meeting where they decided to take her off all special education services. So in the eyes of Florida, she's not even eligible for autism related services while she still has the autism diagnosis.
And in addition to that, I think, you know, the question that I asked was, well, what are your credentials to evaluate her? You know, what are they using as a criteria for evaluation? I don't know that. It's based on someone's opinion. And I don't think somebody who's not a psychologist shouldn't be able to make that decision. Or, then again, without even asking the parents about it. You know, the IEP they try to railroad you into what they think all the time. And again, I don't know what their criteria is, what their credentials are to do that. In other words, I felt like we were railroaded into that so the school board would save money. You know, so they try to limit the services that they can provide because it benefits them financially. And it didn't pay enough attention to her actual needs. It was based on somebody's assumption, whether it be to save money or whether to limit. You know, why would you limit something that could help a child be successful in life?
My wish is that I get him into an environment, a residency where there is some kind of vocational training, where there's behaviors to work with him, because that's what he needs. I can't do all the behavior by myself. And the older they get, the harder they become.
Does that type of program, from what you've been able to research, do those types of programs exist?
Yes.
And are they reasonably available to people?
They're not reasonably available because they're very costly.
So I think, you know, you can get all the modern technology and everything that you want and hope that that's going to be a fix. But I think the real fix is, you know, caring people who are in the profession for the right reason. And they actually have a connection with the child is the most important thing. Most important thing.
You know, I was feeling very comfortable watching them. Why are you now watching me? What's so special about watching me?